I do have a couple lore questions for you, if you like that.
Sure.
We know about all these things. We find out, Davoth and he's who we're going after. But at the end of World Spear, you walk in, there are the yellow figures, and if you look in the walls there are these figures, crystallized wraiths almost. And you're like, wow, these are cool. But when you look outside in the dome, there's tens of thousands of them. And to me, that conveys a sense there's something greater and something bigger that we didn't previously know. Is that kind of pushing in that direction?
I told this to, yes, and I mentioned this, I'll say it here also, that we're going to make some sort of lore, like codex entries with some illustrations, cool. TBD on where we make this. I mean, it's what people, when I said comic, I don't think, we're probably not going to make an actual comic with like panels, and I don't think that that's appropriate. Like personally, I think just more of like an illustrated picture book of the lore of Doom 2016 to answer some of these outstanding questions, because now that the story arc has ended, I think a lot of lore black belts have a lot of questions, and what I want to stop doing is trying to answer these questions in interviews, because it's not we should do it justice. I mean, we should provide, it's a great opportunity, whether it's through Slayers Club or probably through Slayers Club, that we could provide fans of the lore with some sense of just some new content. I mean, and additional codex entries and illustrations made by our team, I think, is a great opportunity, a great way to do that. So I'd like to do that.
Awesome. Looking forward to that.
No announcement on when or, all that stuff. Just saying, like, I think the fans deserve it. And just like we say, master levels are for the black belt combat crowd who want more. Cool, we'll give you master levels. And for the lore black belts, let's give you some additional codex content. The illustrated Bible of the Doom universe, I think, would be really good. I say the word Bible, that implies a size and scope that I'm not talking 2,000 pages. I'm talking like, a handful of codex entries with a couple of illustrations could be really cool. And so look out for more information on that. But I would say that so again, I want to avoid answering too many questions,
right.
Then that spoil it. But because that's the other thing too, is like when I'm answering these questions in an interview, I'm not doing it justice. Like, unless I sit here and talk for 2 hours, like, I mean, we have to write it. We have to like get it down on paper. So I don't want to shortchange it by talking about it too much here. But I will say, yes, people have said, like, I don't believe he retconned the mysterious voice. It was in the ship of the game.
Yep.
It said mysterious voice 4. If I wanted it to be Dark Lord, it would have said Dark Lord. Like, it was a bug. Like, when we changed the voice of some other thing, that inadvertently altered that. And I didn't find out about that until I read about it on a forum.
Oh.
So that mysterious voice and then the wraiths absolutely are speaking to that there is something beyond the Dark Lord and the Father. The fiction of the wraiths, I'll say this because it's in the codex, it's implied that spear that pierced Argent Denor from pole to pole, it was believed that it was just like a meteor of some kind, some sort of space rock or something, but like really when you get in there, the intern says it, he says this is not a rock,
nothing like
it's not a
Urdak.
crystal at all, it's a ship, you know, like, so how the wraiths came to Argent Denor, and we know that based on the fiction that life sprang forth from the wraiths, and just go ahead and read the codex entries. And the idea that that's not like a piece of crystal, that's not a crystal at all, it's a ship. So, and that there are these dormant wraiths, and like you said, thousands of them. Where we go from there, I don't want to say. And again, it's something that I'd rather just do justice through a lore entry, through some cool fiction for the fans. But absolutely, mysterious voice. Who makes primevals? Who made the Dark Lord? What is that voice? Like, is there something beyond? I think there has to be. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like, Doom Bible would be a great fitting term for it. So that would be cool to see. There's a lot of areas I think you could go with it. The Ancient Gods figures at the end before the Dark Lord fight that are around, they kind of look like Sammer did.
So the Ancient Gods, that's just a subtitle name that they were given. Yeah, like that's not, again, I saw that for the first time when I was watching the thing of like, oh, they're the Ancient Gods. It's just like, it's like a kind of a generic name for them. Not necessarily like those are the Ancient Gods. The Ancient Gods are meant to, that title is just meant to speak to like the idea that, again, like there's a grand universe, and the entire conflict of Doom Eternal is between gods and men, and like, you know, like these different dimensions and sort of these larger than life beings, and the Doomslayer being one of them. And yeah, like resurrecting and destroying ancient gods like the Dark Lord.
Kind of look at the Dark Lord and Immora. Something I noticed, if you can say this, Immora is the word immoral without the L. So is that kind of like a pun since it's capital of hell?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yes. I thought that, I saw that and I'm like, wait a minute. That's got to be it. They take the L from it. I thought so.
Yes.
Something too that's was on my mind as well was the original description of the DLCs had said that there would be different characters or different perspectives during the events of Eternal. Then it shifted to the Slayer. So, do you have any mindset or thought of what we could have seen possibly? You're going to get to play a different character than the Slayer and see different perspectives.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because honestly, like we developed the Doom universe so that way, like characters like Commander Valen, the soldiers in the war, like we're constantly through environmental storytelling showing you like all of this crazy shit that happened before you got there, and like the world has like a rich history, so everywhere you go in Doom Eternal it has layers, like if you care to pull it back and investigate what's going on. So yeah, there is certainly an opportunity there to like, because there's interesting characters in the world. So ultimately we ended up focusing on the Slayer, but yeah, the certainly fictionally speaking, things are set up to be able to tell. There's lots of stories to tell inside. I always say that the canned answer is there's lots of stories to tell in the Doom universe.
Oh yeah, and looking at, speaking of stories, when we look at the Elena Richardson logs, well, 2016 takes place, I believe, in 2149, the year, and Eternal is in 2152, I think, just a couple years later. Elena Richardson, some of her logs are from 2163. How does that factor in? Does she write them later, or do you know?
I'll be honest, I think that's just a marketing person put that on.
Oh yeah,
like,
nice.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, she wrote that obviously during the invasion, like sometime after 2016. Like if you follow the codex, there's an invasion of Earth. Obviously shit goes bad. Samuel brings back the crucible with the power and all that stuff, and he becomes kind of like the savior of mankind. And then soon after that, so shit hits the fan and the demons invade Earth, and this conflict of biblical proportion that takes place. And then Dr. Elena Richardson, she's analyzing the whole situation as the Slayer is, coming back and saving them. So that's when the timestamp's supposed to be. That 2152, I believe you're speaking of, that's not in the game. I think that's in a marketing trailer. Yeah.
That makes sense. I wondered if we'd ever see her again. Before Tag 1 came out, we got a hint that we'd meet someone from our past, which Sammer, but I wondered, was it her? But do you think we might ever see her again?
I don't know. She's just one of many scientists. Who are studied and fascinated by the Slayer. So who knows? The Intern too.
Oh yes.
I definitely think he's a part of the world. When we'll see, I'd like to see him again. For sure. Yeah, I think he's a cool. Fans really like that character. That's good. They like him because he's them. Like a lot of people said that. Like he's just us if we were in the game. Like that's exactly it. What if a fan of Doom Eternal got into the game? The idea that the Slayer is this mythic figure amongst the humans, and so he has like fans. There are fanboys for the Doomslayer on Earth, and so one of them happens to work for the Ark. He ends up meeting him. I like the character because he knows that the safest place to be is with the Slayer. So even when all the other scientists run away, he's just like,
hanging out.
The safest place to be right now is with him, not with you guys.
I mean, we see it in the art complex. He's like, he's so surprised, but then by later on, he's like, hey, I want to stay with you. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, that's the first time you see him is in the art complex.
And then too, whenever you're about to descend down into the Dark Lord fight and you're losing your connection with him, it's like, I want to say bye, and now then the game ends, and it closes. Well, I don't know when the Slayer's going to come out again. The Intern might be dead by then.
Or maybe the Intern finds him. I don't know.
I like the
idea that there's someone out there who knows of his mission, and who knows? Like somebody will listen. Wherever there's evil, then the Slayer will rise again, and people are always up to no good.
I noticed the Corax 717, how it connected from start to finish. So
it's kind of exactly. And that speaks to like what a primeval is, and who made primevals and what is their purpose. There was one other primeval, it was the Dark Lord. It's kind of like two Jedi. I mean, Davoth's story is pretty tragic because he is the Doom guy. They make this one the alpha of that world, and he's in charge of it, and essentially he's the protector of that world. And for him, it just goes south. I mean, Davoth's story is of like a fallen primeval, like what happens when all that rage gets pointed in the wrong direction. He essentially creates hell. He does create hell around him. That city of Immora is all that's left of his world, this tiny little island of his civilization. It used to be the whole planet. Now that all that's left is that tiny little city.
That's interesting.
Davoth's story is kind of like he's kind of like the Bizarro Superman, you know, that character. Yeah. And then the Slayer is really Superman. You know, it's Luke and Vader. I mean, it's the dark side, you know, and the good side. Davoth obviously went the other way. I like the idea that like the Slayer gets put away in captivity too, again, because do those people know? I like the idea that there are higher beings than him, you know, making some decisions there. Like they know what happened with Davoth and how that all went south, and could that happen with the Slayer? I mean, you know, he's the hero of the story, so.
It does put in an interesting point when you said Immora is all he has left at that point, because, you know, he had a hand in getting the Slayer to where he is. Things did not go the way he envisioned, I am sure, as we see.
Yeah.
And just to realize that Immora was all he had, and that's what he was clinging on to, this ritual combat was his last stand.
Yeah.
That was it.
And I think that he thought that he could beat the Slayer. You know, he can't control the Slayer. And also, like, he didn't make the Slayer. He unlocked the Slayer's potential. I think he knows more about who the Slayer is than the Slayer ever did. You know, the Doom guy was born on Earth, and I don't think Doom guy knew who he was or what his potential. It's kind of like Neo, you know, like that Neo doesn't really realize his potential until he meets Morpheus. And in this case, in a sense, like Davoth plays the role of Morpheus. Only, you know, I think he thought that he could control him, and that he could ultimately, that he would just wreck shop and Davoth would be able to control him in the end. But of course he can't.
He even until his death, he still holds on to something. It feels like you have nothing to say to your creator before you strike him down. I mean, even then, he still holds on to what makes him Davoth until the last moment.
Yeah, it is, and it's cool. I think he's a cool character. I think you could make a game of Davoth, to be honest. Like he's kind of a tragic figure. He's the Darth Vader of that universe, you know. Only he didn't bring balance to the force. I mean, ultimately he just brought chaos. But you know, now there's only one. There's only one Slayer. That's you know, and it's our guy. It's Doom guy, which is awesome. It
was interesting too, finding out, you know, the Erioahim, the Book of the Seraphs, was actually rewritten history of sorts, and from the Maker perspective, wasn't.
Well, but it's the same though. Like
just from their perspective.
That's it. Like so, and the where that came from was that there's a book of Satan, and then there's the Bible, and how like what the devil is trying to say is that these are the lies of Christianity. Like it's just kind of messing with using like some of these general these concepts that we see in religion, that like, you know, it was a little bit like, well, what if they always say like, well, the devil is the great deceiver and he lies, and it was kind of like, well, what if he's not lying? You know, like what if he has a secret that God doesn't want you to know? That's kind of it. Like they say, like there's like this concept of like the Satan's Bible. And what if inside there's some truths, you know, that they don't want you to know, that's the inconvenient truth, you know. But most of his story, it's all accurate. Like he was defeated. If the Book of the Seraphs, it's like, yes, the Father did take him out in the end. The Father did seal him away. The Father did do all of these things. But the part that they leave out, he simply switched the part where he said, well, I was the first being and I was the one who created these things. And that's the one thing that was switched. It's like, no, you were created by Davoth. Davoth was the first being. Everything else of those events, there's just a tweak in the perspective, but he clearly took Davoth's story and made it his own. But that was the truth that he sold to everyone. It's a dirty secret of the Maykrs. To what degree that the rest of the Maykrs even know that, I wouldn't even. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that any of them know that, except for the Father and maybe just a select few, right?
And it's definitely not the drones. The drones go about their own way, and you know, the angels go do their own business in the worlds themselves. The cons know more, and we know that Davoth and the immortality, how all that connected. So it is a twist.
It was a twist because, like I said, if you read the Book of the Seraphs and you read the story of the Dark Lord, you see that they're basically the same thing, but there's just a twist in the perspective right at the beginning. But and again, that was just to say, like, what if the Book of Satan? We've got Satan's Bible, and then God's Bible, and what if there's actually some truths in here?
See, that was the big twist, I think, for sure. And then, now that he's gone, like you said, what's going to happen with Intern?
And who made him? What was that voice?
Yeah,
and
there was that.
Who made the primevals? There was a. Why do they look alike? And who made that decision? And that there is something beyond. Like, look, there's no secret. Yes, I think there's something beyond. Absolutely, there has to be, right? There's always something greater. I always just think that it's like, well, who made them? And who made Davoth? They say he's the first being and he stepped out of the void. Cool. Where's the void? And who made the void? Somebody had to make him.
Could Davoth be lying? Could he be on? He thinks he has this position, but he doesn't really, or does he really?
Massive story to Davoth and Doom Guy and whoever made them, and yeah.
Be sure to check out the combat portion of the interview right here, and when the final part is out, it'll be right here. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. My name is Allstin. Thank you for watching.